Over the years, I've taken interest in a lot of different skills: songwriting, music production, shooting, martial arts, business, video production, photography, acting, marketing, human behavior, and the list goes on. I'm no master of any of these things, but I have developed a foundation for each of them. As I've studied and practiced, there's one thing I've noticed to be consistently true. Being good at a particular skill doesn't require the best or most equipment, gear, training, or whatever. Oftentimes, and this is what I've observed in myself and in others, stuff is the excuse for not actually doing something. We get caught up in having the right gear or the perfect timing, when in reality we just need to start where we are with what we have. Let's take recording music for example. I started recording music when I was 6 or 7 years old. I used whatever I could find. I often fantasized about having really nice, expensive gear, but what I realized was that if I really loved it, I would make it work. And if I made it work, that would lead to slow, incremental improvements, which sometimes would lead to the opportunity to use really fancy gear. However, when I reverse that process and start with fancy gear without the raw skill, I typically suck. Let's talk about photography, for example. Several years ago, someone handed me a nice DSLR and asked me to take a picture of them and their friends. And it wasn't until years later that I remembered that moment and realized I didn't even have the picture framed properly. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was a terrible picture. When I was about 14 years old, I had the opportunity to record a song I wrote in a fancy studio. The microphone I cut the vocals on cost several $1,000s and was nicer than anything I had ever used before. I had some talent, but I was nowhere near ready to be working at that level. The track came out alright, but I ended up recutting the vocals on my own with a cheap microphone a year later so I could get a better performance. If you love something, you will use what you have and make it work. Fancy gear and equipment comes into play when you're ready for it. If you don't even understand why you need it, you really don't need it yet. Your best work will come from a place of exhausting the resources you have and then being strategic about acquiring the next level of gear you need to complete the goal you have set. One final piece of imagery. If you take someone new to fitness, for example, maybe they know a little bit about eating healthy, they know how to do push-ups properly, they know what a dumbbell is. If you take that person and put them in a fancy gym, they will likely use the tools improperly at best and injure themselves at worst. There's no need for all that stuff when they can first spend time getting good at running, bodyweight exercises, jumping jacks, watching YouTube videos, and so on. Start with what you have, look at things from new perspectives, question everything, set standards for yourself, and push yourself. Incrementally acquire purposeful tools to help you do the thing better. Personally, I've been producing music for over 8 years, and I'm still using a pretty bare bones setup. I feel like I'm just getting to the place where I can start thinking about upgrading equipment because I haven't even exhausted the resources I have yet. And I'm finally getting to that point, but it's been 8 years. Granted, not all of those 8 years were full force working all the time. I started when I was like 12, but the last few years, I really have been building that consistency, and now I am seeing the need for upgrades here and upgrades there. But there's been so much that I needed to learn first, just with a simple MacBook Pro, a simple microphone, a little MPK mini keyboard, and that's about it. Just start. You're probably not ready for the fancy stuff yet. Spend 9 months consistently working, and you'll learn what you need to acquire next.